views shared by our guests are their own and don't necessarily reflect those of the host, sponsors, or any affiliated groups. What you hear on this podcast is meant to inspire and inform. It's not intended as medical, psychological, or professional advice. As always, take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and trust your own inner guidance. Welcome to Waking Up One. I'm Janie, and I'm excited to introduce you to my guest today, Michelle Clinard. Michelle is a self-healing coach, emotional energy practitioner, and self-care expert. She specializes in getting people unstuck and helping them heal on their own with their nervous system to reclaim their health, their life, and their relationships. She's been a facilitator in healing for more than 12 years, had personal experience healing her own body, and now she's educating people how to support their body's natural healing systems. I'm excited to bring Michelle to the show, and thanks for joining us today. So tell everybody a little bit about you and about what you do and how you help people.
Sure. All right. Essentially, what I do is I'm a healing and self-care coach. I'm also an energy medicine practitioner, but I do practice that through the lens of the body. So more of a somatic approach to energy healing. And I think the biggest way that I help people is really helping them reconnect with themselves through their body, reconnect with their body. And doing that means really supporting your nervous system, but learning what ways actually work with you and your nervous system. So you can kind of like reconnect that line of communication between your brain and your body and really become more aware of what your body is communicating to you through symptoms, sensations, discomfort, and honestly how that actually goes beyond the body. And we can experience symptoms and issues in our life that are essentially feedback from our nervous system going, I need more support. So it's just funny how the CEO of our whole life, our body, our health, our mental health, our emotional health, and everything happening in our life is really the nervous system.
Absolutely. And it's so telling when you listen to it, but I don't think we always listen to it. How do you recommend people start to just notice that what their body is telling them?
Honestly, it really kind of starts with the basics, like the most basic basics, like what's required to be a living human being, which is your breath. Paying
Mm.
attention to your breath because our breathing can tell us a lot. We tend to hold our breath or have shallow breath or breathing patterns when we're stressed. And if we're stressed a lot, that becomes so normalized to us that we often don't notice it. And another way would be through our body's discomfort, our tension patterns, our posture patterns,
Mhm.
our aches and pains, and little symptoms, like especially ones that show up on repeat. So, and any
Um,
kind of discomfort, the body communicates through discomfort, which I think every human being can relate to in some way, whether it's physical or emotional discomfort, or
mhm.
just feeling stuck or frustrated in your life for, in whatever capacity that you're experiencing, like stuck points and way too many barriers and hurdles to be comfortable in your life as well.
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of like, or if you have a job that's really stressful and Sunday night comes along, I remember being in those kind of jobs and literally feeling sick to my stomach on Sunday night. And I
Mm.
wasn't sick, but there was a sensation like in my gut that was just like, ugh, and I think we all have felt that when we have to do something, it's like a sense of dread
Yeah.
and how do you, when you have those kind of feelings, what do you suppose people should do? I mean, obviously you can't just quit your job, but maybe
Right.
you
I
need to
think
look
it
at
really
why do you
starts.
feel that way? What can you change? That sort of thing. I mean,
Yeah. I think it kind of starts with just acknowledging that it is your nervous system asking for support. And
mhm,
if you don't know how to support it, or you're not sure, like maybe you have some ways, like you can do some breathing or some meditating, but it's really not getting you through that discomfort and beyond it, where you're back to comfortable and able to face the week. Let's use that example. But you can also pay attention to language.
mm,
So the language combined with the digestive upset, right? But combined with that, especially if it's like every Sunday, almost like clockwork, right? It's
Right.
telling you that it's really hard to swallow or hard to digest or
Oh, yeah.
process what's coming in the week ahead.
Hmm.
So essentially, that's probably stress if it's like the work week, right?
Right, right. Yeah, and we
So,
say it, oh, I couldn't swallow it, or gosh,
yeah,
I knew in my gut, or
right,
yeah, yeah, I just can't digest this. Yeah, that's a
right,
really, I haven't said that one, but that one makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
right.
It's like when you eat something yummy, you feel good and you digest it. When you eat something that's not beneficial, you don't feel good, and it
Right.
leaves you with
Humans
that icky
have
feeling. Yeah.
we have so many metaphors that are so like that are older than we are, right? They've been around for so long, and we still use them, or they still come up organically because we relate to them. And I really think that comes from a time when people were more connected with their bodies.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not our fault we're not connected. There's
Yeah.
every reason why we get disconnected. We're constantly, trying to get through the day, and that's a distraction. It's a big distraction for most people. There's just so much that is required of us in any given day, plus distractions, plus, social media, devices, the news, everything,
Right,
just
right.
so
We
much to
can't
take
we
in.
can't shut it off anymore.
Right.
It's like
It
even if we
it can't.
want to, it's so hard to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if we have excellent, boundary around, shutting the devices off, there's still so much in a day, and it's a lot to process.
Right.
So,
Right. And so the physical, you were talking a little bit about that we have this physical body. Talk a little bit about our nervous system.
yeah,
And like I know you're not an MD or anything like that, but you have a lot of wisdom about, you said you like to geek out. I think you
I
told me
do. I do.
on the nervous system. What can you share that helps people understand really what our nervous system does and why it's important to be more
Mm,
aware?
right. So I mentioned it's this basically the CEO of our whole human experience. And that's because it is picking up through our senses and information that we're taking in, and every bit of information from every experience that we've experienced in the past.
Mm,
uh, it learns essentially. It's like a computer, and it learns and it gets programmed to protect us from what it learns is a perceived threat.
uh,
And not necessarily like you're going to be devoured by a saber-toothed tiger level threat, but the nervous system really can't tell the difference between that and like getting your feelings hurt.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it remembers and it tries to avoid those things, especially if it's learned that that's a common thing that happens.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us have experienced feelings on repeat, like a sense of rejection or loss or betrayal or just a number of things. And we learn from that. Our nervous system learns, and it's like, oh, these little things that are happening to us right now, it learned in the past, those things could lead us to the path of discomfort, of pain. It's a threat. So even if we are taking very focused action to achieve a goal or heal ourselves or to benefit from self-care, our nervous system can be a little resistant, and that
Mm.
actually increases our level of overwhelm, stress, or discomfort
Yeah.
at times. And maybe not super big, but enough that you feel that resistance, and then it becomes hard to remember to practice the meditation or whatever the self-care is. It becomes difficult to really know if it's actually helping, or it becomes a pattern of frustration because that constant resistance that we feel makes us think, oh, look, it's help. Oh, wait, it's not helping. Oh, it's helping.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's not helping. Like, it just feels like you're never progressing. You're just in this constant ebb and flow of getting nowhere. So,
Well, I've also heard too the whole flight or fight syndrome. We are programmed to run away from the saber-toothed tiger.
mhm,
And then, like animals like deer, when they're chased by a predator, they're in flight mode. And
mhm.
and they're once they're free and they know they're safe from the predator, they just come right down. I've
Yeah,
heard
they
that
shake it off.
they shake it off and life is just like right back to the way it was. We have trouble shaking it off. And even when it's not something, say, as serious as a predator or a horrible situation, like you say, it
Mhm.
can be just getting your feelings hurt or feeling less than, or somebody says something and it just takes you into that space, and then it just sort of ruminates within us, and we can't
Yes.
shut it off. Do you, um, are there things that we can do to help with that? I know
There
breathing
are.
is a good one. I know I teach yoga, so we've got breathing methods that are helpful, but what do you recommend people?
I think breathing is an excellent place to start. And I know there's probably people out there who have not had great experience with that. And that's because sometimes what breathing pattern helps one person's nervous
Mm,
system settle and calm and soothe and relax is not what's going to work for another person. So what I recommend is actually exposing yourself to a variety of breathing techniques or breathing patterns to really and not when you're in crisis, not in the moment. Like it's not the right time to try six different
right,
breathing techniques when you're like in crisis mode.
right. You're probably already hyperventilating and
Right.
all that good
You
stuff.
right. You're not going to be able to know what's working, if it's working. You're only going to know, am I still in crisis or am I good? So
Mhm, mhm.
it's not a teachable moment when we're in crisis.
Ah,
And trying out a variety of techniques, especially if you don't do them back to back to back, because if the first one or two actually helps your nervous system regulate, then the other three or four that you try, you're not going to get much biofeedback,
mhm.
much feedback from your body. So essentially, trying them like one day try this, another day try it, like focus on one per day until you really discover like, oh wow, that one was really easy for me to do.
Mhm.
And I really felt relaxed almost immediately.
Yeah,
Because you don't have to spend a half an hour doing it. Really,
right,
I mean, if
right.
you just sit and breathe in a specific pattern for maybe 1 minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever amount of
Mhm.
time you've got, a short amount, and just really notice how your body responds. Does your jaw drop? Do your shoulders drop? Do you feel like you kind of settle into your body instead of up here in your head?
Yeah.
Um, what happens? Does your digestive system make some noise, grumble a little bit, like it's
Yeah.
actually starting to work because you're not in stress mode?
Yeah.
Um, Kind of look for those. Also, shifts in your breathing, like if you're doing a breathing pattern and your body relaxes, sometimes you find that you might yawn or have like a stifled breath, like where it goes a little deeper
Mhm.
before the release, or it's just easier to take that deep breath or to get that good inhale that just kind of goes on the
Ah, yeah.
exhale.
I have people yawn in my yoga classes, and at first I thought, oh my gosh, am I just a really boring teacher?
Right.
And then I realized, no, it's
It is.
breath. They are moving their bodies and experiencing their breath, and it's doing good
Hmm.
things for them.
Their
So,
nervous system is actually going, ah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and really relaxing into it. So they're not just relaxing, but their nervous system is relaxing.
Yeah, yeah, important, very important. And so you talked about grounding, and we use this term a lot in yoga,
Mhm.
and just people in general talk about, oh, I'm grounded, or you need to get more grounded. Talk a little bit more about what does it really mean to ground versus like being up here. I had another guest who was on talking about we're in these bodies. We need to
Mhm.
feel the body. We're always talking so much about up here and oh, bring in all the good vibration, where we
Mhm.
forget that we're physical and we're in these bodies while
Yes.
we're on this planet. So share a little bit more about that versus this, about the
Mhm.
grounding versus the.
Yeah, I think it can be experienced a little differently for everyone. I think that the most common way that I've personally experienced it and heard feedback from other people's experiences with getting grounded and actually feeling grounded, um, is like it- it's almost like your energy body or soul or higher self, whatever you refer to it as. When we're in our head, it's almost like it's just slightly outside of our body.
Mhm,
And another way to describe that would be feeling disconnected from yourself or your body.
mhm,
Um, Feeling any kind of sense of loss of self, I think it really involves a disconnection from the body. And we don't always equate it to that because a loss of sense of self is kind of it's a little bit mental,
mhm,
um, of a of a thought process, like who am I? You know what I mean? It's very thought oriented. What is my purpose? That kind of thing. But when we can't connect with that, It's because we're not connecting to other aspects of ourselves that are super important because we are not just our body, not just our energy or our spirit, not just our thoughts or our feelings, but we're all of those things all at
Yeah.
once. So
Yeah,
any
that
disconnect from any of those things even can be felt as a disconnection from our emotions,
ooh, that's a
where
big one. Yeah.
I have experienced this myself in the past and broken that cycle where if you would ask me at any given moment, how are you feeling? What are you feeling? I could not answer that with detail. I'm
Wow.
feeling a lot. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling like fill in the blank, like nothing ever works, like I'm always stuck here. Maybe a phrase, but technically I could not identify what is this rooted in? Fear,
Mm,
sadness, grief, loss, like the big stuff.
yeah. Yeah. And sometimes it's little things that chip away
Mhm.
or you don't even remember the big stuff.
Right.
Sometimes it's
True.
a lot of little things that pile up. Sometimes it's a big thing you've pushed down. And I'm
Right.
sure everybody's in a different place with that. But how do you help people do you help people discover that what that is that's making them have those feelings or to sort of uncover, unpeel those feelings? Or
Definitely.
what's a session like with you? I guess what would happen?
Yeah, I'm doing more of a group, like a ongoing kind of a thing in a
Mhm.
community setting because it's really like I think one-off support is super important when we need it, but I think there's a certain point where you're going to go further if you can actually experience and witness and observe everybody's process. Like everybody kind of come together and go through their process together, right? We actually see ourselves through other people's experiences. Like we're able to get to parts of ourselves that we can't otherwise get to know that that part needs to be healed or acknowledged or supported in some way. But we can when we come together. So essentially, the first step is really just figuring out how to work with your nervous system, but also opening up to the idea of just being supported in an
Mhm.
ongoing capacity because it's really hard to open up to that when you're talking about healing because it's such a private and vulnerable experience. And it's a little triggering to the nervous system, like, oh, I'm
Mhm.
gonna have to share things with people. Not necessarily only as much as you're comfortable with. But what always happens when people come together is that there's some people who are at a place where they're ready to share and others who are not.
Mhm.
And the things that those who are ready to share really shift something inside of those who are not quite ready,
Yes.
where
Yeah.
they're like, I'm not alone in this. And our nervous system responds to that so deeply. Like, I'm not alone. That's not just me, right? And it also, I think, opens up the doors and windows to what's possible for healing and like going to a deeper level. So being supported, because another aspect of that is we can't do it all ourselves.
Yeah.
We have, a very limited amount of time and energy because our plates are all full. We're all busy. So I think that's really, I think, what kind of set this emotion. Like, I need more time to take care of myself. And when is that going to happen?
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
how? And yeah, and then I found myself in a community of support and went, oh, this is how it happens.
Great. Yeah.
And it didn't take me an hour or even 30 minutes. Like,
Mhm.
15 minutes of this is like powerful medicine. So that was the shift for me. I do still do one-off sessions from time to time, but and those generally focus on going into very specific patterns that we're holding in our subconscious, in our nervous system, and or anywhere in our body, limiting beliefs or unprocessed emotions, stuck energy, just whatever the body speaks. A very private session with me is more like listening to specifically what your body is, what it needs to
Yeah.
reconnect,
Mhm.
what communication lines are blocked. But then going beyond that in the group, we do group sessions that are healing focused and nervous system support and training. And And then it's really about kind of unpacking some of what blocks us from, like, what we're lacking clarity on, I guess. Like,
Mm,
what do we really need? Because it's so hard to hear what our body needs through all the noise of
yeah.
every single day, because there's so much noise. And so it's really a discovery process. Like, what is happening? What are my biggest struggles? What are my goals? Because I know when I started off seeking healing, and I had been struggling with mental and physical or mental and emotional health for a long time. Anxiety was really bad, and it was actually very difficult to function each day. And I've tried just about every possible path to healing it. And essentially, with varying levels of success, but generally not sustainable. And I reached a point that my physical health took a significant decline as well.
Yeah.
And through that process, I think I was referred to 17 different specialists, from specialist to specialist, and I could not get a diagnosis and I could not get any help or answers. And I would say for at least half of that particular journey, I had this like inner voice that was going, you have to look inside you to heal. You're going to have to do this yourself. And I thought, are you kidding me? How am I going to do that? That is absolutely unreasonable and absurd. I'm not a doctor and I can't do that. But I think at some point, just the repetition and it kind of the voice kind of got louder and louder. And finally, I think I answered it, that voice, but with sarcasm. I'm dripping with sarcasm
Okay,
and
fine.
frustration.
Yeah.
Right. It was like, fine, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll just do everything.
Yeah. Why not? Yeah.
Sure, I'll just snap my fingers and it'll magically happen.
I need
Yes,
more
I
stuff on my plate. Yeah.
was very not open to it, but I think I just reached a point where it was like the voice is starting to make me feel crazy
Yeah.
on top of everything else, and I'm exhausted. So let's just try
Yeah.
a different path. Okay,
Mm.
fine, I'll do the thing. And I kind of immediately just knew that I was going to do the thing. That's so annoying. But I immediately just kind of like when I stopped resisting that voice, I kind of was able to hear what my body was telling me, which was that there was not a disconnection between the emotional symptoms that I had for so long and the physical ones that I was having. And um, it wasn't like a magical fix, like but I did learn to work with my nervous system and my body, and in a way that actually it works for me because it's like a combination of, I guess, of logic and of creative,
Mm.
intuitive work. So,
Yeah.
but it makes sense for me. My brain needs that because I think if I would have actually had any other path, I would have a spiritual path or a spiritual healing path. I think it would have, I would have probably been a little resistant to that and a little
Mm.
cynical, probably. Um, I'm one that kind of questions everything, and I want proof. So I found it because I found a way forward that kind of combines both.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk to me a little bit more about that intuition. What did you tune into? How did you begin to use that to heal?
I think my body was just really screaming for me to really like deal with some emotional trauma for starters. I had been in talk therapy for a long time, but I definitely, and I wasn't aware, I mean, this was a long time ago. I wasn't aware of, and there wasn't as many options, say 20 years ago. So
Right.
um, it was not easy to go find, hey, what modalities are out there that actually help heal trauma?
Hmm.
I'm sure they probably existed 20 years ago. I don't know when like EMDR and cognitive behavioral therapy exactly started. I'm not an expert in that. But I do know that I started my journey, like I shifted my therapy away from talk therapy because I felt it for years, like it had been helpful, but it was no longer helpful. And I think it's because I moved past the point of needing to process things mentally, and I needed to shift more toward the emotional and physical levels. But through that, I actually learned that there's there is emotions aren't physical things. They're not tangible things, but
Mm.
we experience them through our physical bodies.
Yeah.
So we can address emotions, but we kind of need to bring the body into it, which it's no different with stress. Stress essentially is emotions and stress are, they're just entangled. They're all the same according to the
Mhm.
nervous
Right.
system.
Yeah.
We all probably have a level of stress that is internal, that is connected to emotions that we've had to stuff down and or put aside so we could get through something on any given day or in any given set of circumstances. And it does inflame the body. Our inflamed emotions, those intense emotions, can equate to physical
Mhm.
inflammation in the body.
Mhm. Mhm.
But essentially, it's a level of stress that is harder to identify when we have a lot of unprocessed emotions we've been carrying around with us. And I eventually found that working with energy, which I had dabbled and learned and trained in some things, but I found that working with energy and working with the body is really there's no difference because our whole body, yes, it's physical, material thing, but
Mhm.
every cell of our body is literally made up of energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's no separation.
Yeah.
And it's almost like we have our own consciousness, but every part of the body also has its consciousness.
Yes. Yes.
And
Mhm.
it's separate and also connected to ours, right? Because the individual parts of the body, their consciousness is more about what their purpose is. Like the stomach would be to break down food, right? So that we can extract nutrients. But that's actually part of its consciousness. It knows that that's its job, breaking
Right.
down food. So,
And it also loves to tell us when we're upset. I
oh,
think, at
absolutely.
least for me, my stomach is like, oh, wow. I feel
Yes.
stress in my stomach. I feel the anxiety in my stomach and not
Yeah.
really other parts of my body very much. So it's very weird how, and like cortisol and all of these chemicals,
Hmm.
when we're happy, oxytocin and all these wonderful chemicals are in our body. And when we're upset, we can bring on cortisol and things that can be non-beneficial if we have too much of them. So our emotions actually create chemical reactions in our
They do.
bodies. And,
Hmm.
and what, like you say, what is an emotion? You can't touch it,
Right. And
but it's something. Yeah.
it definitely creates a biochemical response in our body
Mhm.
and then a physiological response in our
Mhm.
body through whether
Right.
it's tears or sobbing or shaking or tightness in the chest or knot in your stomach.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's
It's really good to pay attention to it and
yes.
to heal yourself. And now is the time, probably. I think everybody's stressed in
Yes.
our world. And yeah,
Right. It's easy to identify where the stress is coming from externally, right? Like we know it's like political stress, there's work stress, there's all these things, but
right.
where's it at in your body? And or what does your body need to help you get through it and still maintain some sense of comfort and functionality? I mean, inward and outwardly, so that you are more comfortable. That's what we never learn that. Like I don't know about you, but like I've never until I went through my own significant health challenge and started seeking solutions on my own because doctors couldn't provide them for me.
Hmm.
Until I was really kind of pushed into that situation face first by the universe or whomever
Yeah.
is responsible for that. Um, I never really considered what my body did. I mean, it digests. I eat food, it digests it, right? I exercise or move my body and my muscles recover.
Hmm.
I breathe and I do that automatically so that I don't die. Like, I don't
Right.
think about it, I just do it.
We
But
do. Right.
when we do think about these things that are happening in our body, we give it a better chance of actually functioning better
Hmm.
because we can respond to it in different ways than we're kind of programmed. Because our nervous system gets programmed. Like, um, I can't tell you how I've been programmed by my daily grind, if nothing else, to not go to the bathroom. Like, I have to pee, but my body doesn't register that I have to pee
Right.
for like
Yeah.
3 hours, and then I'm like, oh, I should go to the bathroom, and then I forget again for another 2 hours because I'm hyper focused on
Yeah.
deadlines and things I need to get done, and that's it's just something that I hear that from people all the time. Or
Mm.
you're hungry and
You forget to eat.
you forget to eat, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm
I'm
starving
so
because it's
shaky.
like
I'm starving.
it's 3:30 in the afternoon. Of course you're hungry.
Mhm, mhm. I do that. I
Or
do that
thirsty and
too,
you forget to
unfortunately.
drink water all day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tired, but you still don't go to bed. But
Hmm.
that's not because we're just neglecting our body. It's literally, it's connected to our nervous system patterns and how
Wow.
we've had to basically survive and cope and get through the day.
I think that's a really important point because a lot of times we feel like, why am I making these bad decisions when I know I shouldn't be? Like not going to bed early when you're
Mhm.
tired, like not drinking enough water or eating healthy food. We all know what we're supposed to do. I think
Right.
everybody out there knows sleep a lot, eat healthy foods,
Yeah.
figure out how to control your stress.
Move
But
your
it's
body.
the
Yep.
how and the why. Yeah, yeah, exercise, all that good stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, we know that. But meditate, that's one
Mhm.
that I know I should, and I probably not as good about it as I should be.
Me
Um,
either.
and it's so important. But again, it's like, why do we make these decisions? And it's interesting to hear you say it's actually a somatic thing,
It is. I mean, our
versus
nervous
a
system is
willpower
driving.
thing. We always think, oh, it's my willpower, or I'm
Right.
just not, I'm lazy, or
I'm
I'm not focused,
unmotivated. Yeah.
motivated. Yeah. And we blame ourselves in a
Mhm.
way that's not going to help us to do it. So
Yeah. But
listening helps then. You're
right, but
yeah.
really, I mean, all of those things are driven by what's happening in the nervous system. And what's happening in the nervous system is what has always needed to happen in order for you to cope, function, and get through the day, or get through an experience, or whatever your nervous system has learned through your personal experience. And we all have a lot of shared experiences,
Hmm.
but we also have a unique twist on on those shared experiences through our own lens of perception and, experiences. So I
And
think
I'd
that
love to
when
know
we,
too.
oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, you go
Oh,
ahead.
I'd love to know too, you're talking about doing things in groups, and I think this is so fascinating because I know when I've been on a call and it's a Q&A call, somebody else
Mhm.
is going to have that same question, or they're going to be able to put that question into words that I wasn't quite sure I had, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I was wanting to ask, or that's
Mhm.
what I was feeling too, or you'll hear somebody's situation and the person on the call that's answering the question will say something and it triggers something in me. I'm like, oh yeah,
Mhm.
that's going to be helpful for me. I need to remember that. And it's not even my question. And it's so interesting. This podcast
Mhm.
is called Waking Up One. I'm talking about consciousness and interconnection and just all of the things that we don't completely grasp and understand, but we know that they exist. And so this group, what led you to the group? You mentioned that people tended to get more when they talk together. And I'm just curious if you can maybe dig a little deeper into that, and if you have any scientific or just experiential that you can share about why you went that direction, because I think that is an interesting and probably a really helpful way for people to heal.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to talk about that. The I think honestly, the way I kind of fumbled upon it is it was kind of right in front of me all along, and I was not able to, I guess, be consciously aware of it until I was ready. And that happened through actually joining a group. So I had kind of been on my own healing journey for a long time, and I've had people come into my healing journey, but more of a one-on-one, like therapists, healers, and that kind of thing. And that support has always been great. Uh, but I still felt like, um, and I mean, and at this point, I think at this point I'd been practicing healing support one-on-one for almost 10 years,
Mhm.
and still kind of felt frustrated about my own practice and like my own healing journey, I guess is what I mean by that. And it's because I felt frustrated because there is part of me that is just like really stubborn. Like I do not accept. I mean, when I couldn't get answers to my health problems, I couldn't accept that either. Like I don't accept. I'm sorry. There has to be a solution and answer somewhere. It wasn't on the path I was on, but I did find it because I am
Mhm.
just stubborn. Maybe that's what it is. Driven. I don't know. I mean,
That's a good
there's
quality.
lots
I
of
think,
words.
Michelle, that's a good quality, I would say. Yeah.
I'm not even sure. I mean, I think driven's a better word than
Yeah.
stubborn for everyone
Yeah.
else's sake. But for inside of me, stubborn isn't even a bad thing because it is what
Right.
drives me. I need to know.
Hmm.
And I'm
You're
not
not
giving
going
up
to
until
just
I do.
resign yourself to say, I'm going to suffer my whole life, or I'm going to,
No,
you say, I'm going to make this better. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
don't accept. It's just kind of, it's built into who I am, probably through my early experiences, which were very stressful. So, that is the strength I found in me through my difficult times was that I don't accept. And so I will find a better way or something better or create it myself.
Hmm.
And um, so I was frustrated with that process, but I wasn't at a point where I really knew that I was seeking an answer or a solution to what constantly feels like I make progress, but and and I know that there was a certain level that I think I was being a little hard on myself, like because I was making progress. Where I started and where I was at that point was significantly improved.
Hmm. Hmm.
But it still felt like I had to work really hard to maintain it.
Yeah.
And if I didn't, then my progress was lost. And that just frustrated me. But I wasn't actively seeking a solution at the time. And then I actually joined with a few other healers, spiritual professionals that I knew around the country, around the United States. And we decided that we were going to start meeting once a week just for an hour and just
Mm.
virtually and check in and just support each other. And
Oh, I love
I would
that.
say that 3 meetings in, I went, oh my God, everything is different.
Wow.
And I think that it occurred to me that it's because I'm not carrying the burden of responsibility on my own.
Mm.
And beyond that, the science is, and it's so funny to me because like I knew this information, I just hadn't applied it to myself. So the science, when we come together, human beings, their nervous systems are literally designed to thrive and heal in community.
Wow.
We tend to, like, it's a very common pattern to survive through isolation. Like even the
Hmm.
thought processes or the beliefs that go with it are like, I can only rely on myself. I have to do it on my own. That comes from having to survive that way, having to go it alone. And it's not the most sustainable way to progress. Can you progress
Hmm.
that way? Absolutely. I mean, I'm never going to tell anyone you can't because I did. I made a lot of progress that way. And you can pull people in periodically to support you, and that's fantastic. But what happens when we come together in a group with the same, maybe not the same things to heal, but the same goal of healing or improving our comfort or our experience in some way is our nervous system has mirror neurons. And it's basically the same thing that means like if I yawned right now, you would probably
I would,
yawn.
yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
That's what happens. Um, But when we come together to heal and we start to process our feelings, we all have these shared feelings.
Hmm.
And even if our
Wow.
experiences are different and it starts to activate healing, we start to mirror it. Just like if I were yawning and everybody, saw me or heard me and they all yawned. When I'm
Yeah.
talking about my healing process, we like I think you mentioned something about this, like your questions, like you start, even if like you had questions and you didn't know you had questions or you didn't know you had that question, other people
Uh-huh.
ask it and you recognize yourself in that.
Yes.
Oh, I need
Yes.
that information.
Hmm.
I know
Hmm.
what happens when we process what we need to heal or when we share our experiences. Even if we're sharing our frustration, like this week I'm dealing with XYZ and I'm so frustrated and then this happened and then we just move through the healing. Through that taking a moment to be in our bodies, to breathe through it, to feel where we feel the things and just pay attention. We notice that
Mm.
things in us are also active and activated, and we can
Yeah.
process. So we're going, even if we're not there with our big problem, we're still
Yeah.
making some space. We're growing our capacity, we're co-regulating, and we're processing whatever we need to process, even if it's a little different than what somebody else is processing.
And you think about all the different healing modalities, like I have a Reiki master
Hmm.
equipment, and we deal a lot with the heart space. And you think about, you're touching someone or sending energy to someone. It's still a support system, even if you don't know exactly what's going on with them or their issues or where they're holding space. I've seen people with Reiki, they'll like shift as soon as you bring your hand near there, something
Hmm.
just shifts and relaxes. And it's so interesting because it's like, as a Reiki person, you're not a healer, you're just the conduit, to help
Right.
that healing take place. And we're kind of conduits for each other, I
We
think,
are.
too. And
Absolutely.
our heart space, heart math, oh my gosh, I was so
Mhm.
fascinated to learn that our brains have a lot of electromagnetic energy, but our hearts, it's immeasurable. So,
Right.
I mean, you and I are in different parts of the country. Our heart spaces can be connecting
Right.
right
I'm
now.
sure they are right in this
Yeah,
moment. Hmm.
yeah, exactly. And it's so powerful. But
Right.
it's such an incomprehensible thing to most people to think if you walk into a room, your heart space is emanating, and so are the other people's, and you're going to pick up on those energies. And hopefully they're good energies. And I think when we come together to heal or come together, I have a group, it's a miracles group. And so we come together to kind of intend for each other and send well wishes to each other. And a lot of times they are for healing and things like that. And I find the same thing. It's just so I love this group. It's every 2 weeks we get together, and I can't wait to get on the call and talk to these folks because we just simply care about each other. And I think everybody needs that in their life. And so much
I
of
think,
it anymore we don't have. We're such
right.
individual beings, and but we're not. We're so connected.
Having a community of any kind that's supportive. And we have our friends and we have our family, and those are very important connections, very important community that we have. But I think that if we have a shared goal, that kind of community,
Mhm.
it's a whole different level of community
Mhm.
because like I had a very supportive family and very supportive friends through my entire healing journey, my entire adult life of healing journey. And it's still a different level of support
Mhm.
than one that's got a shared goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it really is. And honestly, I feel like a part of what made me create the community is I really think that we need more of it. And we also, I think, just need more ongoing healing support instead
Mhm.
of trying to do it all ourselves. And I think people put so much time and energy into searching for the next thing that's going to help them. And I've been one of those people. And when you already only have so much capacity, like your nervous system is just like full of all the responsibilities and the stress and the feelings and the demands of just day-to-day life. And then you need to do self-care, but you've reached a plateau or you've had a setback or whatever you've been doing is not working. Maybe you've reached a point in therapy where it's been helpful, but it's not helping anymore, and you don't want to talk about it anymore. Um, but what's next? Like we have to search for that. There's not, there's not a great, I mean, the internet is very filled with resources, but it's also like you have to kind of pick and choose and trial and error, and it can be
Mhm.
time consuming and exhausting. So that's part of my one of the one of the problems I wanted to create a solution for.
Yeah.
So, and to be clear, I think it's important to say this. I honestly don't think that I am the just right only one solution for everyone for all the things.
Well, no
And
one is. No one is.
right,
Everybody's
because no
helped
one
differently.
is. But
Right, right.
that's something that I always tell people, because if you come into my community looking for something and the truth is you need something else, I'm going to tell you that.
Yeah. Well, and that's good. That's what's important is that you're an
Right,
honest, caring person because
right.
not everybody will do that. Some people will just, I think talk therapy, when you mentioned that, I think it can be great for
Oh,
people, especially in the
absolutely.
beginning to talk your way through. But if people have been in a talk therapy program for years, I'm like,
Hmm.
what are you talking about?
Yeah,
Unless it's
well,
new problems,
right.
if you're constantly talking through new problems, fine. But if you're trying to
Right.
get through something from your childhood and you're still talking about it years later, maybe try something else or add something to that
Right.
or,
Right. My suggestion and is this, like, talk therapy can be great if it's working for you. And how you really know is either it's working for you or you're really frustrated with it.
mm,
And beyond that, also really kind of sit with it. Like, what do you need from talk therapy? Like, what's your
mhm,
goal? Because if your goal is like deep level healing, talk therapy is really about wrapping your mind around things that happened to you or why they happened, what
yeah.
happened, and bridge you to what's next, which is how do I get past it
Hmm.
and reconnect with my authentic self, the person am before this thing happened to me or these things
Yeah.
happened to me.
Mhm.
And talking about it is not going to get you there, but it
Yeah.
won't get you across it.
Yeah. And when you said authentic self, that is such a powerful thing too. I think so many of us aren't quite sure who our authentic self is. Some people had that authenticity and lost it through some kind of trauma. Some people have been traumatized their whole lives and never had that chance to blossom.
Hmm.
And I think people can be on both ends of that spectrum. And I don't know what helps people to peel that onion away and figure themselves out if they've never had that chance. But
Yeah.
um, I
I
think it's
definitely think nervous system support, EMDR, helping the body process the trauma, helping your nervous system process the trauma is an excellent starting point. So,
And everybody has trauma. I think we think
mhm,
of, oh, you don't have to necessarily be a victim of some horrific crime to have trauma.
right,
Trauma
right.
comes in many forms. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I have what would be classified or could be classified as medical trauma from having decades-long experience with chronic illness.
Yeah.
And honestly, my my kid probably has it just from living in a household with me where we had to manage life according to what my body could physically handle for a very long time.
Yeah.
And, those are things, those limitations are like we learn them and the struggles that are associated. Now, my medical trauma and my child's, for instance, would be different because it's from two different perspectives.
Right. Right. Your child
And
is dealing with the parental situation. You're dealing with the personal situation.
right.
Yeah.
So, but our bodies process trauma the same, regardless if it's a major trauma or a minor trauma.
Mhm.
If it's, you know, I don't know, active duty trauma or,
Mhm.
you know, I've been disappointed too many times trauma. I mean, right,
Hitting a brick wall too many times with
right,
whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
right,
Love or money or jobs. I mean, all the things we need in our lives and to keep going
right.
in the world we live in now. So, yeah, it's a very different world than our ancestors who lived with the saber-toothed tigers and could see the stars and they could feel nature. They felt probably the word grounded
Right.
probably didn't even come up because
Mm.
that's all they had around them was the
I
earth and
suspect
stars and
they were much like animals are now, where they're chased by a predator and then they shake it off and
yeah.
return to regular. But we it's not because our nervous systems are broken that that happens, where we can't just shake it off. We're literally bombarded with nervous system input all day long, every
Mhm.
day. And then
Yeah.
at night, our body's trying to rest so that it can process some of it. And
And
some
what
of
do
us
we
struggle
do?
with that, right?
We turn on Netflix, or we watch a
Right.
movie, or we play a video game, or
Right.
we don't just sit with the moon
Right.
usually.
Right. So it's our
Or we
body
have
does
kids
its
to
best to
feed, or
keep up.
meals, or dishes, or all of that stuff too. So
Right.
sometimes even work doesn't go away. You go home, you shut your computer off. I work remotely, but it's like, so it's always there for me, but it's in another
Mhm.
room, and sometimes I have to go back upstairs and do something. It's
Yep.
just it's the way
True.
we live today. So,
Yep.
but yeah, like if you can process that in your body, and you can recognize that, and you can take at least that little bit of time for a group session or for a meditation or whatever works for you, to just
Mhm.
pay attention. That's
Yeah.
so critical. And I think our world would be better if we would all put our oxygen mask on, and then we'd be able to
True.
help other people. So,
Yes.
yeah.
So the I think the number one takeaway that I like to send everybody with, like, if you learn how to listen to your body and you start noticing the discomfort or the patterns, like, oh, I don't drink enough water because I forget, or I hold my bladder because I get distracted and busy. Um, that we do those things for a reason. We do them because our nervous system has learned that it helps us get through the day. Maybe we feel like we have a little bit more control over what's happening to us when we are really at the mercy of our responsibilities and our timeline and all the things that are outside of us and outside of our control. Um, and that may not be the only reason, but that's a common one. So, but we learn to do it to fill a need, to feel a certain way, right? And essentially, what we can do with that information is learn how to respond to it in different ways.
Mm,
Now, on a bigger level, that would be learning how to work with your body to regulate your nervous system or support regulation in your nervous system, which means helping it calm, helping it soothe, and doing it as a daily practice to kind of build your capacity, um, not when you're in crisis, but also to respond to any patterns of discomfort that are coming up, physical, emotional discomfort, and taking a moment to calm and settle and reassure your nervous system. So if you think about it, we just like we have ways that we respond to our basic needs, we also have ways that we kind of automatically respond to stress or
mhm,
emotions, right? We
mhm.
might um, shut them down. Like big emotions come up, like we're feeling like we might cry, or the anxiety comes up, and we're like, no, 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 because we can't get through what we have to get through if we let it, like we lose that part of ourselves, our ability to function. And it's scary, right? So there's a reason if we're stuffing down our feelings or dismissing them or denying them, there's a reason. And it's not just because, oh, like, well, you're not doing good enough. It's because we're trying to function, like we're trying to cope, we're trying to survive. And the thing is, like, if you notice those things on a big level and you learn when you're not in crisis what actually helps calm and regulate your nervous system, whether it's a
Mhm.
specific breathing pattern, moving your body, um, or a variety of other things that my brain cannot connect with right now. Um, we can do the same thing, but start smaller with, oh, I've already said I needed to go to the bathroom twice and I still haven't gone. So this time I'm going to respond differently.
Mhm.
And I'm going to go like right now,
Conscious. You're being
right?
conscious about, yeah.
When we notice, like when we're aware, then we get to make different choices and different and respond to our discomfort in different ways.
Mhm.
And that's
Right.
essentially how we're going to support ourselves, support our nervous system, and support healing.
And that's interesting. In yoga, we talk about reaction versus response.
Mhm.
And the first thing is about becoming aware of your body, your feelings, everything that is you, so that you can respond rather than be reactive to something.
Yes.
It gives you a preparation, it gives you a skill set, so
Hmm.
that you don't have to be in this state
Yeah.
of stress. You can figure out how to, or you're in it shorter, you're in it for
Hmm.
a shorter amount of
Yes.
time, or you're able to deal
Faster recovery.
with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And to be fair, it's not always easy. Like
Mm-mm.
if you're doing yoga and you're in that space where you've been doing yoga and then you leave that space and you're very aware and you consciously respond and all that, it's much easier. But when you're
Mm.
trying to get through the day in a rush and meet the deadlines, it's harder. It really is. So my version that I just detailed, where you already dismissed your full bladder discomfort twice. If you practice responding when you do finally notice that you've dismissed it twice, like it doesn't have to start at a perfect practice because right in that
Right,
moment, your nervous system is going, this is how we're going to get through this. We're just going to not go to the bathroom.
right, right, right.
Just
I have
ignore
to go
it.
to this meeting and I
You're
don't have
fine.
time to run to the bathroom and I'm just going to hold it in and be fine. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you are fine because your nervous system's really good at
You have
like
to be. Yeah.
dismissing the signal. And then it comes back full force. And you know, and you're
Literally
like,
sometimes.
oh, that's right, I didn't go. But when you have that aha moment and you can do something different, respond to the need,
Hmm.
meet the
Hmm.
need. And when you're stressed or your emotions come up and you can deal with it, the great thing is like emotions are like, who wants to feel their feelings? I mean, they're so uncomfortable, they're cumbersome. I don't know about you, but I know my experience was I don't want to feel them because I'm afraid that I won't recover for days. Like they were really
Hmm.
intense feelings and sometimes would just make it hard to get through the week, not just the day or the hour. And it was scary because my livelihood depends on me getting through the day.
Sure.
So
Most of ours do. Yeah.
right, right. So I can't with all the feelings right now. Like I just
Hmm.
can't. But when we do that, they build up, and then they spill over. And like I was reactive. I would cry over like things that I didn't really feel like wanted to cry about. Like my tears didn't match my feelings.
Yeah.
But I couldn't tell you how I felt. But all of this is because there was just so much.
It's like so buried and there's so much of it and you've been
Right.
holding it for so long and yeah, that's so it's unhealthy to do that. And I was just hearing about people who are internalized versus externalized in the way that they react in the world.
Mhm.
And if you're an internalized person, that's something you tend to do is hold that in because you feel like, well, I need to manage this myself. And right now is not the right time to show these feelings or feel these feelings. I'm going to stick them here and I'm just going to forget about it for a while. And then pretty soon there's more and there's more and there's more. Whereas an
Mhm.
externalized person has an advantage sometimes when they're the person that just blows up, or they're the
Mhm.
person that just, and then they're kind of like the deer with the saber-toothed tiger. They forget about it, regardless of maybe who they hurt sometimes in the process. But those people that internalize, like I'm an internalizer, it's like
Mhm.
sometimes we blow up, but we blow up after it's the volcano that's been like,
Yeah.
the lava's been growing and growing, and then boom, we just explode sometimes because we've held it for so long. So if you can catch it early, with your body and respond to it, acknowledge it, heal it, do what you need to do with it, it doesn't become the volcanic
Mhm.
eruption of,
Yes.
yeah,
And
or
I,
illness, because sometimes it'll manifest into a
yeah.
disease or,
Yeah.
horrible headaches or just depression or anxiety, or it just
Mhm.
usually it goes somewhere, and
Yes.
that's, yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
If emotions are energy, so if they don't move through the physical body, they get stuck in it, and then
yeah.
they just start filling it up, and then it just goes blah, everywhere. For every little bit we add, it's like oh, a little bit more explodes out. So,
Exactly.
and there's definitely a connection to how much like your emotional capacity and your nervous system capacity. There definitely is a connection between those two buckets of capacity.
And everybody probably has different size buckets, I
Right.
would imagine too. And like
Yes.
those people who are externally, you know, expressive, just they don't have to have a bucket. But
Right.
I think a lot of us have those buckets, and that we're the ones that need this community and this sharing and this to deal with
Yeah.
some of those people that don't.
Yes. True. Definitely. So it's kind of like learning new ways to respond to our physical discomfort, our basic needs, and our emotional needs.
Yeah.
There is a different way. And then honestly, nervous system support and like helping calm and soothe the nervous system in response to emotions is an excellent way to train the body well, to make more capacity, emotional capacity, so that one little thing doesn't go over the, spill out over the bucket. Um, but it also like gives us a new way to recover, like a new way to take some of the power back from our
Yeah.
emotions. Because like I know me, it was like I would do anything to not let the feelings come because it kind of takes over my life at that point. So it
Yeah.
is in control. The emotions are in control at that point.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
now, I mean, I can honestly say, I mean, do I still have feelings? Yes. Am I like perfect? No. It's like sometimes I'm like, "Rah," and I'm a little snippy, and that's fine. It happens. I'm a human being. But most of the time, I have like big feelings come up. Like I have diagnosed anxiety disorder. And so I do have bouts of anxiety that don't always make sense to
Mm.
what's happening in my life, right? Like my
Right.
brain knows better, but my anxiety does not care. It's got a whole
Yeah.
different story
Yeah.
that's operating
It's
in the
like,
background.
I'm here.
Right. But what I learned is like for me, this really works well. In order to be able to support my nervous system when my anxiety comes up, if I get too deep into the anxiety, I become so nervous system dysregulated that it's hard to focus or think. Like, what do I do? Like I like pulling tools out of my toolbox is like not even possible. So essentially, as soon as I notice that anxiety, like I'm feeling like this anxiety, I just I say it out loud. It's because I'm an internalizer too. So, but instead I externalize, but I do it in a different way. I learned a new way to internalize to externalize instead of just having it like
Yeah.
kind of explosively come out of me in a rage or a tirade or reactivity. Instead of that, I'm like, I'm anxious.
Hmm.
I'm anxious, therefore I don't know how to respond to this question, or I don't know how to proceed, and I'm going to need a minute to kind of calm myself down. I just
Yeah.
say what's true. And you know what
Yeah.
happens? I noticed immediately when I say that out loud, like it takes the wind out of the sails of my anxiety. Like I
Like,
took
oh,
the
I'm
power
really
back.
not that anxious.
Right. And
Yeah.
my
A
anxiety's like,
little.
wait, what? What? And I'm over here going, oh, I feel so much better. And my anxiety's going, hey, what about
It
me?
just needs to be acknowledged. Sometimes it just needs to be acknowledged. And doing it verbally, where you can hear it and you say
Mhm.
it, there's some power in that. It's kind of like
There
those
is.
affirmations where people say, tell yourself when you wake up in the morning, high five, you're great, and say it
Mhm.
out loud kind of thing. When you also acknowledge those, like, I feel really sad right now, or I'm anxious, or I'm angry. I do that sometimes. I don't get angry very often, but boy, when I do, sometimes I have to just go say, I am angry. I am
Mhm.
mad. And then it's
Right.
like it does, it diffuses it. Just like,
Right.
okay, yeah, I'm still angry, but I'm able to manage it now,
Yes. But now I can communicate about it instead of
and
just
I
yelling
can
about it or
communicate.
whatever. Yeah.
Harder when you're with another person. You can't,
True.
but yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and my naming it the way that I do, it's been a process. Like it didn't start out like being super easy for me to just say it out loud. Like I
Yeah.
started saying it only to myself, only when I was by myself. And then around certain people that I felt comfortable in my life. And now,
Yeah.
I mean, now I'm literally saying it on your podcast.
That's cool. Yeah.
But I mean, at the grocery store, I might tell the person behind me, like if I was having an anxiety attack or something that, and I needed it to stop, I might just talk to a stranger behind me. How are you doing? I'm feeling a little anxious. And but what's funny
What do
is
you say? I'm curious when you talk to a stranger like that, what kind of response do you get?
honestly, most of the time, I mean, a couple of times I've probably gotten like, okay, I don't know what to do with you, but kind, right? But most of the time, the majority of the time, I get people that are like, I'm a little anxious too, or I'm not feeling anxious, but I'm feeling tired. Like it almost gives people a space to say what they're
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah, it gives them an opportunity to express their
Right.
needs and thoughts
Let's
too.
see that
Interesting. Really
those mirror
interesting.
neurons at work where I say a feeling and then you suddenly become aware, like I'm having feelings as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I might as well have just yawned and then we could all yawn.
Or they might say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I hope things get better for you," or something
Right.
like that too, I suppose,
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, a kind word. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, that's funny. I'm kind of shy, in public. I'm not shy like on a podcast or on a stage, but in public I can be kind of an introvert and kind of shy. So that would be bold for me to say that to somebody, but maybe I might have
Yeah.
to try it.
Yeah. Or just, try it at home.
Yeah. Well,
It's
I'm a big mirror talker. I will talk in the mirror to myself and talk out things, if I'm
yes.
having a problem or what I wish I'd said. It's like
Mm.
I'll go back to that situation and I'll talk it out as if I wish it had gone. And it helps because
It
at least
does.
I get it out the way I want it and I hear it and I'll actually physically say it out loud to myself, usually in my bathroom mirror, after I'm brushing my
Yeah.
teeth and stuff. I'll have that conversation while I'm doing my makeup.
Yes, I bet that actually is really helpful, especially if otherwise you would continue to play it out over and over in your mind. But saying it out loud means you take it from in here and get it out.
Mhm,
So you
mhm. And
can
then you have to
disrupt
say,
that
okay,
cycle.
and now I'm done. Click, turn it off, go, yeah, don't, because I can stew in things too. It's very easy to stew and marinate and,
Absolutely.
keep things rehashing in your mind when there's not that solution there yet or that resolution there yet. It can be
Right.
hard to, just let it go. But
Yes.
here we are, it's fall here where I live, and the leaves are turning and some of them are falling off the trees. And then they always say, the trees know when to let the leaves go.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. And I'm sure we have a lot to learn from that process. I love that just the whole metaphor of trees and people being so similar because our nervous system actually is like the roots of a tree and trees can't
Well,
grow without the roots and neither can we without our nervous system being
yeah.
supported.
And do you know that the roots of trees connect with through mycelium
Yes,
and
they do.
communicate with each other? And so, like when one tree is dying, it will give its energies through its roots to the other trees.
Yes.
And they know that they can connect with each other energetically. So now you're talking about this group connection. That's
Yes.
kind of like those roots, and that's that
Yeah.
mycelium that carries the energy between us. That's really
Mhm.
cool. Yeah.
Yes, and then co-regulation happens
Mhm.
and deep healing. It's a beautiful thing.
I love it. I think that's a good place to wrap up. I think that's a
Yeah.
beautiful thought. And so, Michelle, how can people learn more about you?
Oh, they can visit my website and learn a little bit more about community support. If you're not sure that you're ready to commit to, being part of a ongoing community, then there's definitely you can start with learning more about the breathing pattern that suits you and your nervous system. And let's see. Oh, there's definitely nervous system support workshops that come up periodically and an 8-week program that I think doesn't start until it's after the new year. I honestly don't remember the date, but I think it's February of next year.
Wonderful. It'll be on your website.
Yes.
Yes. And do you have a email list or anything
Oh,
like that?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Newsletter. And I don't send out lots and lots of emails, but I do lots of stuff on YouTube,
mhm.
Facebook, and Instagram. So,
Awesome. Awesome. So your
yeah.
YouTube and everything, we can find that through your website too, I'm guessing. So
Yes,
yes,
absolutely.
great. All right.
So, and
Well,
and it's just my name, michellclinard.com. So,
mhm. And we'll put that up on the screen and put that in
perfect.
the show notes and everything for you too. So wonderful. Well, Michelle, gosh, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for coming on and for sharing all that. I know I am going to go back and continue to focus on my breathing and the yogic breaths that I know and maybe check out some other ones that do you have breathing on your YouTube channel and some things
Um,
too?
there are some things on breathing
Mhm.
on there, and there's a masterclass series that just teaches about 6 different breaths.
Ah,
So,
great. We'll
yeah,
definitely be checking that out.
I
So,
think that's
so
on
I
my
know
list.
breath in yoga and yoga
Mhm.
nidra is huge. So, and
Nice.
I can see when I'm teaching in class and we practice certain breath, how everybody just softens in, and
Right.
lets go of that stuff, even if it's just for those few minutes of breathing. So,
Yeah, just practicing with, a handful of different techniques to see what I think when it's easy for you to do, like you don't feel like you're struggling with the pattern. Um,
mm,
and when your nervous system really responds, like you relax, you notice like, oh, like you feel that release or relief
mhm.
sensation, that relaxation sensation. Um, it makes it more effective and sustainable if
Yeah.
it's easy for you and it really communicates with your nervous system. So
Mm.
those two things are really the keys for finding the right breath to support calm. So
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing all your wonderful wisdom with us today. And I appreciate you being on the show. And yeah, it's so great to have you.
thank you for having me, Janie. I really appreciate being here.
I had such a great time discussing the body and how we can use our body and listen and heal and use our breath and become more aware of our physicalness so that we can start to heal. And then also doing that with other people and getting support within groups, within our communities. And I think Michelle had some really great things to share. I would love to know what you thought in the comments below. And if you like these kind of conversations, you know the drill. Subscribe, like, share. It's all very much appreciated. And my name is Janie. Thank you for being a part of the Waking Up One community. See you soon.